Hey team! I'll be showing you how to use the paintbrush tool in Adobe Animate as well as going through the animation process. So here we have a bunch of different brushes, which can be found if you go up to the help action and then search brush library. Brushes! Yay! There are so many. You can also change the stroke size, which is how large or small your brush is, as well as smoothing, which is how smooth your brush is. If you're new to animating, you might be wondering, what's a frame rate? What does animating on 3s mean? Help! Okay, so the industry standard for animation is usually 24 frames a second and animated on 2s, so that means that if you have a drawing that holds for 2 frames, and then you do a new drawing and that holds for 2 frames, same goes for animating on 1s and 3s. It's just all about timing. For the purposes of Flavor of Justice, we're going to be animating primarily on 3s, both to kind of cut down on our time cost and also to kind of give it like a choppier, peppier, energized feel to the animation. Of course, you're not limited to animating on 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s. You're free to mix it up as the animation needs. Sometimes you just need an additional frame, so you can just slot that in there. For the purposes of in-between work, you are always free to take more creative liberties with your frame rate, as long as you're not like pushing yourself too hard. Obviously push yourself in a creative way, but also take care of yourselves, guys. Like, it's not a bad thing to animate on 1s. It's just very technically impressive, and it's going to take a lot of dedication and time unless you work really fast. So for the purposes of Flavor of Justice, generally everything's going to be animated on 3s. In about a few seconds, it's going to throw an error once I try and name the layer, because you can't use special characteristics, and the special characteristic is a space. So instead of a space, you would just put an underscore or a dash or something similar. A very important thing about using the paintbrush tool is that it's going to lag your project so hard. It's going to lag your project. If you scrub through your timeline, it's going to be significantly slower than if you were to just use the paintbrush tool. Ultimately, for Flavor of Justice, I do feel like we're going to use the paintbrush tool to line our work, just to give it that kind of rougher, grainier sort of edge, just to fit with the vibes more. If that's changed, see me about it. You'll know when you know. But for the purposes of this demo, I'm using the paintbrush tool, and I'm using, from the brush library, you go into Artistic, and then Paintbrush, and then it's Dry Brush 5 that I am using. Although we're pretty early in the production process, I still think it's important to touch on Lineart Coloring, etc. So for coloring, you can just go in with it with the classic brush tool rather than the paintbrush tool, because again, that's going to lag so much. So it's just simpler to use the classic brush tool, and you can just kind of like splotch in the colors and then go back to clean it up later. You'll ultimately find your own kind of workflow for this. For me, that's just, like I said, splotching in the colors and then going back, scrubbing through the frames in order to get the desired output, which is keeping within the lines, nothing outside the lines, unless your team lead specifically calls for that, or a scene specifically calls for that. just generally stay within the lines of your line art, and you'll be good to go. An important thing to note is with publishing. You may have not known this, and I didn't know this until Taylor, Sketchbound's team lead, pointed this out to me. It'll say, include hidden layers. Turn it off in advance.